Hello and welcome to Ellroy Reads, and I'd just like to begin this episode by thanking all viewers and subscribers for your unwavering support, your commitment, your dedication to the show, your encouragement, your... Where are you going? Come back. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay. If you're unfamiliar with Ellroy Reads, this is a show where every week I look at a book that was influential to James Ellroy, a book that inspired him, moved him, amused him, thrilled him. And the book for this week's show is Memorial by Bruce Wagner. Okay, so Bruce Wagner was born in Madison, Wisconsin, and at a young age he moved to California, first to San Francisco, then to Los Angeles. His father was a TV producer. He produced the Les Crane show, who then became a stockbroker. After his parents' divorce, his mother worked at Saks Fifth Avenue in New York for over 40 years. So with a background like that, he was rubbing up against the rich and famous and kind of observing their lives, their vices, their flaws, their foibles. And that was to become a big part of his work as a writer. He worked as an ambulance driver in Los Angeles and also as a Beverly Hills limo driver, which again gave him more insight into celebrities and the rich and famous. And he began writing. He scripted a film called Young Lust, a comedy film which has never been released, which gave him material for how Hollywood works, and Hollywood would become his main focus as a writer. And he also self-published his first novel, which was self-published to great success, Force Majeure, and was optioned by Oliver Stone. Then he began to attract the attention of highbrow critics with his Cell Phone trilogy and novels like The Chrysanthemum Palace. He also scripted the five-part miniseries Wild Palms, which is almost like, when I watched that, it was very overstuffed, but it was very intriguing. It was kind of like Twin Peaks set in LA. And when we get to this novel in 2006, Memorial, he's kind of at the height of his powers and also at the height of his friendship with Ellroy, but I'll go into that a little bit later. So Memorial is this sprawling family melodrama. It's 500 pages. And just to take a few of the plot strands for you, because it is a gigantic book. But here are a few. We have Lou, who is a Napa Valley billionaire who lost some relatives in the Indian Ocean tsunami, and he wants to build a memorial to them. And he hires Joan, who is an architect who's pushing 40, so she's getting to that stage where she's reevaluating life. I know, because I passed that milestone a while back. And she's never actually had one of her designs made into a building. So they begin an affair. They get pregnant, and Joan's mother Marge is actually taken in this elaborate con where she's promised money that she's won in a New York State lottery. It's all highly elaborate and dubious, and from a crime fiction perspective, because I imagine that's the background of both me and also many of my viewers on this show, it's very, very interesting and kind of thrilling and riveting to read. But because Wagner is mostly a satirist, it gets increasingly cruel what happens to this woman, because she's just taken in and taken in and taken in. And even when you get to the stage where you as a reader, like, I can't believe a word more of this, that she would... The cruelty displayed is on a par that I don't think I've ever seen in a book before. And you know, but you're saying to yourself, I would walk away but at this stage, but she can't, and she becomes kind of like punching back. And that kind of made me feel rather uneasy, actually. But there are very, very funny moments, not just Blackleaf Comics moments. There's a moment where a police raid goes wrong and a dog is shot. And we follow that dog's recovery, being pampered by the very best Los Angeles vets, and that becomes something that's probably one of the more humane aspects of this book. That's the humanity that kind of kept me interested. There's also a character who kind of gets punked in a elaborate TV show where he's led to believe he's walking into some serial killer's home, and he defecates himself, and he launches a big civil suit over the way he's been tricked. And there's some really, really good comic moments there, and there are scenes that, certainly the prose style reminded me a lot of Ellroy, in terms of, very elaborate wordplay, just experiments with style and alliteration and things like that, and slang. And there are scenes that could come straight out of an Ellroy novel, or perhaps they'd come straight out of an Ellroy life. Because there's a scene where the LAPD detectives are in the Pacific dining car, lunching, and they're talking about the numerous cases, some of which I've just described to you, and how they're all going wrong and they're all a little bit bizarre. So think of it as kind of the way I thought of it in my mind when I was reading it was kind of Bonfire of the Vanities for Los Angeles. And some of it is absolutely brilliant. Some of the set pieces are just extraordinary. And sometimes I got the feeling, though, and maybe this is because of its length of 500 pages, that as good a writer as Wagner is as bad a writer as he is, because you never quite know what he thinks of all this. For instance, there's a lot about the increasing popularity of Eastern mysticism in LA, and how in LA that's been commercialized, and you're never quite sure whether he thinks that it's all nonsense, or he's taking a satirical look at it, or he's just taking an objective look at it. For instance, Wagner was a student of Carlos Castaneda, the shaman, and he spent a lot of time with him, actually under an assumed name. And if you look into Castaneda's theology, I suppose I'd call it, as an Englishman, most people think that Castaneda's writings are entirely fictional. What I've gathered from Wagner is that he takes it very, very seriously, and he's directed videos on that religion, and he owns the rights to all of Castaneda's books. And he's continued to have success in Hollywood. A number of his films have been adapted. A number of his books have been adapted into films like Maps to the Stars and I'm Losing You, and that brings us nicely to his relationship with Ellroy, because Wagner and Ellroy's friendship really took off after Ellroy's second divorce, which is divorce from Helen Cunard, and Ellroy moved back to LA. And Wagner hung out with a lot of celebrities and kind of enjoyed hanging out with Ellroy. They were quite the pair. He introduced Ellroy to a lot of celebrities like Alan McGraw, and they just had a good time. But they were kind of like bad boys roaming around LA. And I know they had more than one falling out, because Erica Schickel, in her book The Big Hurt, says that when she was dating Ellroy, they weren't talking temporarily. By the time I was working with Ellroy on his biography, they weren't talking permanently. I believe they'd had a permanent split. And Ellroy had come to blame Wagner for egging him on to do this kind of bad behavior in LA in the mid-noughties. But I don't know how much truth there is in that, because Ellroy at his worst didn't need much encouragement to play the bad boy. But I know Helen really disliked Wagner and said some unrepeatable things about him. But just to give you one example, she said that Wagner egged Ellroy on to date Dana Delaney. Of course, they never dated, but Ellroy did propose to her, and she was furious with him for that. But ironically, Ellroy and Dana Delaney and Wagner all did readings of Memorial together, and Ellroy would do readings of Memorial on his own together. This was the height of their friendship and the height of Ellroy's admiration for Wagner as a writer. And in many ways, if Ellroy hadn't gone into the crime genre, if he could become a literary figure, well, he is a literary figure, but he definitely went the kind of crime first until he kind of ascended to that greater height, then I think he might have ended up a bit more like Wagner. Might have been in one of the great satirists of 20th and 21st century Los Angeles. And in some of the readings, actually, James Ellroy played Lou, the billionaire, and Dana Delaney played Joan, the architect, and they were speaking together as a couple, which I thought was quite moving to watch because, of course, they never became a couple in real life as much as Ellroy wanted to. And the scenes play really, really well. I mean, these scenes read well, solitary, they're very funny, they're even funnier when you listen to Ellroy and Dana Delaney and Wagner himself reading them. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you next week for another episode of Ellroy Reads, and don't forget to subscribe and don't walk out on me. Bye bye.